Hello everyone and welcome to another webinar from Linkhouse. Today our guest is the one and only Kyle Roof. Kyle, it's a pleasure, a big honor to see you again and be able to talk with you.
Thanks so much for having. This is a high production value webinar with the intro. The intro.
It
This
is,
is
it
great.
is,
This is
it
great.
is. Okay, so Kyle, before we get to the questions, I would like to start with the upcoming SEO board game. How do you feel about it? We both have our own pawns in it, and do you think they've portrayed you well, or maybe you don't see much similarities?
Well, I think my character's in jorts, like jean shorts, and I don't own any jean shorts. I was a little upset about that, but
Yeah,
otherwise,
me either,
otherwise
because
it's all right.
we do not have the white t-shirts. I was like, nah, there's no way that's me. But yeah, the spot is also on the pound, so I think that the tom on the game is the actually me. So okay, so before we get to the questions, I have one more announcement. First week of November, we are sending the first edition of our I Hate SEO newsletter. You can sign up now. We won't spam you, and we want to share with you SEO breaking news, some insider tips, in-depth case studies, tests, and some exclusive promos for the subscribers. The URL of the dedicated landing is ihateseo.com. The link is in the chat as well. And the second, bit smaller announcement is that you definitely should subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also follow the Kyle Roof on the LinkedIn. It's obvious, and yeah, many exciting interviews and webinars will be published on our YouTube. So stay tuned. And yeah, so getting to the point, we've prepared almost maybe over than for 40 questions. We will see how it goes, but I hope that you have big cup of coffee and even more patience. To our viewers, of course, we will do some Q&A afterwards, so you can ask some questions in the chat during our webinar, so we can start. Are you ready, Kyle?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. The first question, I think it's pretty general. What makes you rank at the first position?
Starting with the easy ones. Um, well, I think you have to the secret's hiding in plain sight. So the first thing you need to look at is what type of page is Google rewarding for this particular keyword, and that's the type of page you need to build, just in style. The next thing is, Google likes that page for its on page and its off page, and so you can count the important terms for the on page, and you can look at the linking domains, and that's going to give you a roadmap for what you need to do to get onto page one and perhaps get to number one. I think it's important to note, though, you might never get to number one. There are a lot of variables that are outside of your control, such as time. The site that's been number one could have been there for 5 years, and they're unlikely to move. You might be in local SEO, and there are only 2 spots on page one for local, and that means, and neither of them are number one. That means it's unlikely you're going to get to number one. And so when you build those pages, obviously, number one is the hope. But when you properly optimize a page for a particular term, you can win a lot of secondary terms. And that's where you can cast a very wide net. And a page can be very, very successful and not rank very well for its target term. And so I think when you are kind of setting out, I wouldn't really worry about number one. I'd worry about a page that can rank for a lot of terms. And if you can get it to rank for a lot of terms, even if you never do very well with the main target term, you can still have a very successful page.
Okay, so analyze and rationally evaluate your capabilities to be on. Yeah, this is pretty good. So the second and the third question are might be related. I think we can sum it up. So questions are: can you still rank a blank page, and can you still rank a Lorem Ipsum page?
Yes to both. The blank pages, if you've got a page that has some code in it, there's sections of code that Google will read. and you can rank a page for, or you can get to show in the SERPs, even though it appears to be blank. And the Lorem Ipsum, that still works. And I don't know, people seem to doubt me on that every time it comes up. But yeah, those pages still rank, and you can still run tests, and you can still be very successful with it.
Yeah, you showed this in Estonia, I suppose. Yeah,
Yeah,
was
that's
it?
right.
Estonia? Yeah. So okay. So I have my website, and Kyle Roof comes to help me out. What are the first three things you do across my website?
The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look in Search Console, and I want to see how the site is trending. Is it trending up? Is it trending down? Is it flat? Because that's going to kind of dictate what kind of strategy we might want to go for. But then I also want to identify the most important pages. Because sometimes a site is trending down, but the most important pages are trending up, and it's actually just losing keywords that aren't important. Or vice versa. Sometimes it's trending up, but the most important pages are losing impressions and clicks. So I kind of want to look at a macro view, like how is the site performing altogether, and then I want to look at a micro view and see how the most important pages are doing. From there, I want to look at the site, and I want to see if actually any SEO has been done. There's a real difference between worrying about SEO and doing SEO, and a lot of people just worry about SEO, and they'll tell you that they've been doing SEO, but they really haven't done much. And if I can see how much SEO has been done, often there are quick wins that I can go for. For example, they might have had an SEO that told them that you don't need to put the keyword in the page title. And so I can go in, I can put the keyword in every page title and probably increase the traffic by like 5 to 10% overnight. And I look like an absolute SEO god. So I'll look to see like those kind of little things first, see if I can't find quick wins here, there. There are often places where you can do that. And that's where I would start with those three things.
Okay, so let's assume that we are starting with a website from scratch. What are the most do's, and what are the common mistakes that you met to avoid?
If I'm starting from scratch, the first thing I want to do is I want to identify some of my most important terms, or the most important concepts for the site. And I'm gonna start doing some search. And I want to identify like 3 competitors that are doing consistently well on all of those keywords. And then I want to get all of their URLs, and I want to see what pages they have in common. Those are pages that I'm probably going to want to do first. I want to see what their the pages that are performing the best, which of their pages are bringing in the most amount of traffic. I probably want to do those next. After that, I want to look at links that they have in common. Often sites that are doing well share links, and that's going to help me then get my off-page strategy as well. So I think a common mistake that people make is they just, without a plan, start making a website. And they'll start putting up pages without any real rhyme or reason. And so what I want to do is I want to look at the sites that have been successful, see what types of pages they have, and I want to build out my content strategy, kind of going back and forth between top-level pages for money keywords, if you will, versus some supporting pages and that sort of thing, so I can get some quicker wins. And then at the same time, look and see what my backlink strategy would be. And I can base that off of the sites that are something similar to what I can build and are doing well in the SERPs.
Okay, so referring to the competitors analysis, it's worth mentioning that you are able to do backlink gap analysis in Linkhouse. So we definitely should visit our platform. So I want to ask you about the compound SEO, one of the tactics that you teach. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Sure, that's a product name for something that we've got in the agency, which might be an important point. If you're doing agency work, you should productize your services and give them a catchy name. It's a lot better than just saying we're writing content. But compound SEO, it's built off of the framework of avalanche theory. If you're not familiar with avalanche theory, do a Google search for Builder Society, SEO Without Resources, and read that article. It's really, really good. And that's a great jumping off point. The problem with avalanche, and the basic concept behind avalanche, is that your site has a natural tier that Google will trust you with doing very, very little SEO. You'll write a page for a particular keyword, and it's in your tier. And basically, without doing anything, you're on page 1, 2, or 3. Without really much work. And then the idea is as you post that type of content and then it starts to get clicks and impressions, the site goes up tiers, goes up levels, and then you can go after keywords in that level. And theoretically, you could do SEO without any SEO, just consistently publishing in your tier. Now, that's not really the case. You can't just do that. And Avalanche isn't a complete SEO strategy, but it is a great framework and a great foundation. And so Compound starts with that, and then it adds in some different layers for determining the keywords you want to go after and then how to interlink things properly to kind of flesh out a more complete SEO strategy. And that's essentially what Compound SEO is.
Okay, so how do you figure out what tier you're at?
The way you want to do that is you want to look at the last 3 months, and then you want to take your average clicks. This isn't the most basic way to do this. You want to take your average clicks for a day across those 3 months. And then that number would be, you can go after a low competition keyword that has that monthly search volume. So if your clicks for the day is 50, that means you can go after a keyword that has a monthly search volume of 50. Now you want to identify lower competition terms, because remember, we're not going to do a lot of SEO here. So it's important to identify those low competition terms. But if you post a piece of content on your site for a low competition term that is in that 50 range, there's a good chance you're going to win it without doing much SEO is the idea. So you want to take that 3 month average for clicks, and then that turns into a monthly average for the monthly search volume for a keyword that you can go after.
Okay, so is that something that is still relevant today?
100%. It's my bread and butter. It works like a charm. It continues to work well. It's completely white hat, so you're within Google's guidelines. And one of the important things about it is that because you're not doing a lot of SEO, you are less susceptible to updates. And so when there's a Google update, you have a good chance of surviving, because the idea is that Google can give, but Google can take away. And when the strategy is primarily based on research, out researching your competitors and posting in your correct tier, there's not a lot that Google could take away from that. It's completely white hat, and it's the kind of thing that doesn't get touched by any updates. So yeah, it works great. It will kind of create a moat of protection around your sites. It'll decrease volatility, and it'll kind of lead you towards evergreen growth.
Okay, so I want to ask you about siloing that you are known about. Can you tell me how is different from clustering, and which tactic is better in 2025?
Well, the siloing that I do, and I'm not entirely sure how clustering is defined there, but the siloing that I do is kind of within that Compound SEO strategy. The idea is that I'm going to create some supporting pages for my target pages. So a target page is going to be outside my tier, and that's okay. You have to do more SEO to that page to win it. So I'm going to post content that's in my tier, and then I'm going to interlink those pages together, and I'm going to link them all to that target page. And they're not going to link to anything else, those supporting pages. They exist only to raise the authority, the strength of the site, and then to push internal link juice to my target page. And people are like, well, can I link to that? Can I link to that? No, that's not what it's there for. If you have a piece of content that could link to a lot of things, that's great. Do that, put it on. It's just not going into the silo. And so I'm going to create these little silos, and they're virtual silos. So the URL doesn't matter. It's not a parent-child relationship. It is links within the body. We don't care about links in the header, the sidebar, or the footer. This is links in the content. And with that relationship, we're going to create that to then push up our target page. And it's still extremely effective and will continue to be effective through 2025.
Okay, thank you for describing that one. So I love your quote from another interview. It goes like, if you are bad at SEO, AI will help you do bad SEO faster. So do you incorporate AI into your work? And if so, how do you do that?
Yeah, AI can't do any SEO. Language models can't do SEO. That's not what they're there for. But they can help you get content ideas. They can help you get rough drafts of content. They can do things like that. And you should be using some tools like that in your process. They can actually evaluate if the content's any good. They can help you with translation. There's a lot of great things that they can do that are valuable and can speed up the process for you on things in SEO. So think of AI as a tool. It's not the end of things. It's not the finality of SEO. It can help you do SEO, but you still need to understand what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to do, and then you can use AI to help you get there faster.
Okay, so how does ranking evolve with AI overviews, the rise of generative search and so on?
The main part of the algorithm with, the organic ranking part hasn't changed. I've been running the tests that I've been running since 2015, and everything's still the same. So just like with featured snippets or like carousels or other things that are in the SERPs, there will be things you can do to show up in those areas. I imagine it's going to be very similar. I don't know if anybody's really nailed down exactly what those things are, because they do seem to be still testing different things and what appears in AI overviews. But in terms of organic ranking, not much has changed, if anything. The updates that really shook things up for affiliates in like the HCU and the March core just targeted those sites, but it didn't change the algorithm. I think Google said we don't like you anymore and tried to wipe out those sites, but the ranking part didn't change. And so that part, the organic part, hasn't really changed in a way that you need to worry about, other than doing the things that work. And then to get into overviews would be an additional step. And I imagine it's going to be having good semantic structure, having semantic terms on your page, that sort of thing, to get into those areas if you'd like to do that. But otherwise, the ranking aspect in the organics has not changed.
Okay, so I'm really curious about your opinion on ranking through Reddit in light of the recent deal between Reddit and Google. So
that's just parasite SEO, and that's always been. If you do a search for a term that you want, look and see what Google has on page 1, and oftentimes there are pages in there that you can get on. Google's ranking them, and you can contact those websites and say, hey, you've got a list of the 10 best of these things. We'd love it if you checked us out. That kind of thing, and you can get on those pages, or you can create your own Reddit thread. Those things you can do. That's parasite SEO. That's been around since the beginning of time. For some affiliate type terms, maybe some more buyer intent terms, Reddit is showing up more. So if it's important for you to win those terms, that's something that I would look at and try to get in there.
Okay, so and since we are at Google theme now, can you comment on DOG's threats and potential Google breakup?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. If there is a breakup, though, the algorithm part of Google, the search part, isn't going to break up. They would make them get rid of the other companies that they have that are creating a conflict. And so I don't think for our day-to-day, even if there was a Google breakup, much would happen for us, because the part that we're concerned about getting in the search results, I think, wouldn't be touched by that breakup. They would lose the smaller companies on the side.
Okay, so the next question is really interesting from my point of view. We see more and more big companies acquire independent SEO news outlets, with the most recent being SEMrush's buyout of Search Engine Lang. What are your thoughts about that kind of things?
I don't think journalism has ever been that great in SEO. I don't think anybody's ever won a Pulitzer Prize for some hard-hitting SEO piece. And really, most of the things are sock puppets for Google, and not trying to be malicious or nefarious about it. It's just, in this industry, Google is what we're mostly focused on, and Google says something, so they report on it. And there's nobody at Google that you can, question about those things or hold their feet to the fire or do like some investigative journalism. That just doesn't exist. And so I don't think it really matters who owns these things. It's not like now there's some bias and the news is going to change. No, they're just going to keep doing what they've been doing. When Google makes an announcement, they report on it, and then we read it. So I don't think there's going to be much change at all, because there's nothing to change. It wasn't like, they're the New York Times or, the Washington Post, or, they're not bringing Richard Nixon down anytime soon. I mean, they're just putting up Google tweets. They're just putting up Google tweets, and that's just pretty much what they're going to continue to do.
Okay, so what are your trusted sources of information, of getting information?
I would trust anyone that shows their work. If somebody does a case study and they show what they've done, that's great. That's great information. If somebody's run some sort of test and they show what they've done, that's great. If somebody's just saying their opinion, then I don't really care too much about it. I'll listen to it, but it's not anything that I would consider a trusted source. There are times a lot of people will say like, you can't test Google's algorithm. I'm like, that's fine. Show me that you can't do it. Show me something that should work in a test and it just simply does not. And of course they don't have anything. I've never seen it. I've yet to see it. But the other thing too is when you're running tests, I'm happy to be wrong, because then we learn something, and then we can advance our understanding of how Google works. So a trusted source is somebody that shows their work. That's great. That's excellent information. If anybody else just gives an opinion or they say Google says so, that's not a trusted source. And I might glance at it, I might listen to it a little bit, but it's not anything that I would trust.
Okay, so let's move on to what interests us the most. Will links still be relevant in 2025?
No, I think Linkhouse should close things up now. It's time to get out of the game. Of course, as I was saying, nothing in the algorithm has really changed. Nothing the big parts of it haven't. The things that we know haven't. And links are so baked into the algorithm, they can't get rid of them. So yeah, links are still relevant now at the end of 2024. They will still be relevant in 2025.
And 2026 and 2027.
Until we die.
Yeah. And okay, so what do you think? Can Google read around the link, or should you just give a longer hyperlink that includes your keyword, even it's a long tail?
I can tell you that Google does read the link, and then it's just my opinion. I don't think Google reads outside the link. And so if I was concerned about giving context to Google, I would make sure that I've got that in my anchor text, because I'm not convinced that they're reading outside or what's around that particular link for context. So that's just an opinion. That's what I think. So to be on the safe side, I would just put anything important in the anchor text, and then I think you can feel better about it. So that's how I would approach it.
Okay, so do you use link magnets pages?
Yeah, they're great. You should use them. The thing that you want to do with that is something that is shareable, something that is reasonable that people would be sharing. So some sort of information piece, some sort of resource hub, that kind of thing that people would actually share. That's probably what you want to do. And then you can get that across social. And those aren't the best links of all time, but it does get the ball rolling. It can get you referral traffic from social, which is great for SEO. And then it can also then attract those links with that sweet link juice. So yeah, definitely that should be part of your content strategy.
Okay, so can you explain the whole concept and give some kind of idea how to produce such a link magnet, but effectively?
I mean, the most basic thing would just be like an infographic that gives info. You can run like surveys in Google, and you can get new information from them, and then you can create fun things out of that information that people might be interested in, want to share, and then you can get that going. And yeah, it's a great way to get things going. If you've got access to any form of data, a friend of mine has a site that looks at, you can put phone numbers in to see if it's a spam number, if somebody's spamming you from that number. And so he's got a lot of phone data on like how many spam things are reported in Spain, that kind of, and he's got pages on his site that give that data. Those are great things to do. So if you have access to any kind of proprietary data, anything at all, that's a great way to go. If you can't get that, I would start doing surveys. And I mean, surveys are surveys. You can survey your parents and your aunts and uncles and put something up, and somebody will probably find it interesting. So yeah, I'd look for something like that to do for a link magnet.
Yeah, very interesting topic, to be honest. So let's assume that I managed to rank top spots without any backlinks, but that was for a keyword with a keyword difficulty from 1 to 5. How far can I go without backlinks? When do backlinks become really necessary?
Yeah, the sidewalk will end on page. They can take you a long way, but it will often it won't get you all the way. Usually, when you launch a page and then you'll see it kind of bounce up and down. At some point, it starts to steady. And once it's getting pretty steady, where maybe it's bouncing between 14 and 13, but it's pretty much there, that's when you've gone as far as on page can take you. And that could take some time. That could be 1 month, that could be 3 months. If you want to wait, you can, If you know you're going after a term that's a little more competitive and on page is unlikely to take you all the way for that term, then you probably want to start your link building strategy earlier than when you determine that it's gone as far as it can go, because, links take time. The process of, outreach and getting content approved and then getting them pointed and seeing if they work, all that. So, but yeah, once the page is stabilized, you can see that's as far as on page will take you. But I might start a link building campaign before I reach that point anyway.
Okay, so let's clear some SEO myths. It's okay to buy links. We both know that Google does not ban, buying links, but the devil is in the details here. So, Kyle, can you tell us what kind of links we can actually?
Yeah,
We can
you can buy two types for sure. One is the type of site that helps, or type of link that helps Google understand what your site is about. This is like why you can buy citations, because your Google crawls those things for information. It verifies that you're an entity, that kind of stuff. And, White Spark and Bright Local and Yext have shared the stage with Google at conferences. So obviously Google does not have a lot of heartburn with those types of links. The other thing you can do is you're allowed to advertise. A native advertisement looks like a piece of content is on a website and it's linking to you. There's nothing wrong with that either. You're allowed to do native advertisement on somebody else's website. You just have to mark it clearly that it's an ad and give correct attribution. And if you've done that, then even though you've purchased that link, it's a natural byproduct of the ad, and there's nothing wrong with it. And to be perfectly honest, there's not too much of a difference between what somebody calls a guest post to what somebody else is going to call native advertisement. I think it's a much more of a semantic argument than an actual argument. And that's why it's impossible for Google to crack down on a lot of, when somebody's like, hey, they're clearly cheating. Well, it's hard for Google to see that because it's quite possible that it's just viewed as an advertisement.
Okay, so can you tell us a bit more about, the most common mistakes when it comes to internal link building, and what are your most to-dos?
I think something I see is, for some reason, some people think they're Wikipedia and they want to put like 40 internal links on a page. And really, I think, if somebody says like, well, what's the max? Should I do 5? Should I do 3? That's the wrong way to think about it. You should link because it makes sense to link and it's necessary. And I think if you're linking just to link, then don't do that. But you should be linking with a purpose. You should be linking from one page to another page, so you're intentionally passing authority from one to the other. If you're doing the internal linking that we talked about before with silos, then you're only going to have at most 3 links, internal links on a page. And that's a very specific page that's doing that. If you're linking to something that's going to boost an entire category, well, then you might have 10 links on that page because it's going to link to all the pages in that category, and that's fine. So create content with a purpose. Once you know what the purpose of that content is, then you should be linking with a purpose. It should have a reason to have the links because you knew why you put that content on the site in the first place. So yeah, the mistake and then the advice is make sense. Like, know why you're posting a piece of content. What is it supposed to do? And when you know what it's supposed to do, then you should have a pretty good idea of how many internal links should be on that page.
Okay. I feel there is some kind of myth perpetuated in the SEO community that you need a good copy to rank high, but your test clearly shows that it's not true. So can you, talk about this a bit more?
I mean, you need good copy to convert. There's no doubt about that. If somebody comes to your site and you don't have good copy, they probably won't do what you want them to do. But when it comes to ranking, it's a completely different animal. Everybody knows this. If you've been in SEO for 2 minutes and you've launched content and you're like, I wrote a better piece of content that's on page 1, you know already that the best content doesn't always hit page 1 and doesn't outrank things. You need to satisfy what the algorithm is looking for, and that's not necessarily good content, or what might be the best content. When you write, though, I think where people go off the rails a little bit is that they might start SEOing their content a little too early. What I would do is I would figure out the title of my content. I would figure out my sections, how many sections I need, and what the titles of those sections are. From there, I'd give that to my writer and say, hey, look, I need about 2,000 words. Don't stress on that, but just fill out each section. These are the sections I need you to write about. When you get that content back from your writer and then you throw it into a tool like Page Optimizer Pro or Surfer or whoever, you're going to see that you only need to tweak it a little bit. It's going to be tweaks from there. And this is where kind of the intersection of good content and SEO content come together. So write an outline, give the outline to your writer, have them complete it with the copy, then run it through an SEO tool, then tweak, and you're going to do very well. The problem is none of us like to write outlines. When you're back in, grade school and the teacher told you to write an outline, you didn't want to do that. It sucks. It's no fun. And we're adults now and we still don't want to do it. And that's where people write bad content and write bad SEO content, is they just sit down and start writing their web page instead of actually doing that outline. So go back to the grade school principles, write your outline, use that outline, give it to your writer, then go to tools to check your word counts or your term counts for important terms. And then you're going to do very, very well.
I'm happy that you mentioned about Surfer, because they just recently wrote on the chat, "Let the boss talk." So yeah, I see that there is some cooperation between you.
In theory, we're competitors, but they're great guys. We're not competitors. It's all boats rise together.
Amazing. Okay, so I know you are a big fan of keeping things simple. On-page SEO, focus on H1, URL, title, and paragraph tags. But recently we can see the clickbait titles, known mainly from YouTube, get to rank high and do generate clicks. And the younger generations of searchers also prefer the personal endorsements by influencers. So that list titled 10 best city bikes loose with "I tried these different bikes and here what is I found." So what should we do in such a cases?
Well, the short one is going to be better for SEO, and the longer one is going to be better for something like Google Discover or for social media, for sure. So why not do both? You could put the SEO one in your page title in your H1, and you can put the one that's more clicky in your metadata, like in your OG tags, for example, so that it shows up there in social media and Google Discover. That's how I'd approach it. Just do both.
Okay. So do you feel that Google's algorithm keeps up with the evolving search practices, and does it diverge in a sense that on one side we have Google's algorithm and SEO versus user intent and content? How to balance that situation?
There's no such thing as user intent. Let me help you. Like people sit down and like, what is the user intent? You don't have to do that. Do the search, look at the content that's there. That's your user intent. You don't have to, you're not writing for the searcher. You're writing for what Google expects to see. People want to think of it like, oh, I'm writing for the intent of, no, you're not. You're writing to what Google will actually rank. And that's the intent. And so, and you're also never going to teach Google anything. Google, it happens so often, people like, I need to rank for this keyword, but 3 of the sites on page 1 don't even sell the thing that we sell, or they're not even talking about the right thing. You can't teach Google what the right thing is. It just doesn't work that way. So, you might write a piece that is 100% the correct intent, but if Google doesn't know what you're talking about, it's not going to rank. So there's no such thing as user intent. Put it out of your mind. There's what Google thinks is user intent, and you don't have to guess at what that is. Google shows you. So do the search, see what Google's rewarding, and that's all you need to worry about with intent.
Okay, interesting. So we talked about copy, about links. So what about tech SEO? What are the most common issues and how they can be fixed?
I think fortunately in 2024, if you're using a modern CMS and you're using hosting that costs more than 99 cents a month, you're probably fine. Most of the tech issues of old seem to have gone away because websites are better, web page builders are better, and hosting's a lot better. So as long as you're not just on the super cheap plan and you didn't, download some cracked WordPress template from somewhere and using cracked plugins, you're good. You want to keep an eye on things that you're kind of within normal ranges, but you should be there if you're using real stuff. It's not worth your time to shave off 0.0001 off of any of those metrics. You just want to get into whatever the moderate zone is, and you're fine. When you start to see a lot of red, then I would start getting concerned about things. But if you're just in kind of like that meh range, I would stay there and I wouldn't worry about getting into the green too much. So just stay modern, and I think you're okay with pretty much all tech issues.
Okay, so can you point out the most overlooked but easy SEO, tech SEO tips?
I mean, again, don't overthink it. Just like make sure that your site can be found. Everyone runs into that thing that for some reason they've got that checkbox in the back end of WordPress that says de-index my site or discourage search engines from looking at it. And every once in a while, somebody has checked it for some unknown reason. So make sure that Google can find your site. Make sure that your pages are indexing, and that's happening. So you do want to keep an eye on those things, but those are easy checks. You can look in Search Console. You can do searches for your pages. Make sure that that's fine. If all that's fine, and then you're using something like Lighthouse or GT Metrics or something like that, webpagetest.org, just make sure you're in the OK, and then you'll be fine with all of that tech stuff.
Yeah, so at almost every level, keep it simple. Don't make it overcomplicated.
No, everyone wants to out-clever themselves and their competition and out-clever Google, and it's a recipe for disaster.
Okay. Yeah, we always want to find something that doesn't exist. So let's talk tests now. You are the legend of tests, done over 400, including patented one. So how did you get into testing?
I thought everyone was doing it. I thought, because I was like, when you try to look up, is this a ranking factor? Should I do this? And, you search like, is this a ranking factor? And you get 3 yeses, 3 nos, and 3 maybes. And I was like, well, that's not gonna work. And then I was like, oh, I could just put up like a hobby site and try it out. And that's fine, but that's taking a little bit of time. And my background, my bachelor's is in psychology, and I did a lot of psychological tests. Testing was what I was focused on. And so I was just kind of able to put together a method for testing. But I honestly thought everyone was doing it. I didn't think it was terribly revolutionary. And in 2015, I spoke at my first conference, and I spoke on testing. And it was the kind of conference where it's 40, 50 people in the room, and they can talk to you while you're on stage. And I thought, I'm going to show what I'm doing. You guys are going to show what you're doing, and we'll get here. And about 5 minutes into my talk, I realized no one's doing this. No one's doing this at all. And that was a big moment for me because, like on the agency side, we could say, hey, we're running tests, and we know whoever else you're talking to about doing your SEO just simply is not. And kind of gave us kind of a tone, a voice, when people are looking to come to you for SEO services, what are you doing that's different from all the other SEO agencies? Well, for us, we're running tests. We're scientifically based. We don't guess on your site. We don't test on your site. We don't learn SEO on your site. We learn SEO in the test environment, and we bring you what gives you the best chance for success. So once kind of nailed it, that was a thing, and then we could create a brand around that. It only made sense to keep going with it, and I ended up getting a patent on the testing idea. That was actually a marketing ploy more than anything. And then because I do kind of feel like I patented like the scientific method more than anything. But no, I got the patent. Can't take it away. And now I'm known as the testing guy. But it's been great, and it's actually because even to this day, as much as I've talked about tests and I've shown my tests, and there's still not a lot of people that do it. There's still plenty of room for people to jump in and kind of stake their ground into this kind of arena as somebody that wants to be data-based, wants to be math-based, wants to be research-based, rather than, magic-based and fairy dust-based. And praying to the old gods and new for help. Like you can still get into it. There's still time.
Yeah, amazing. So basically, everyone were assuming you were like, I'm checking and let's run some tests. It's pretty amazing. To talk about 2015 and how much differences we are able to see. And I'm really curious about the patented one tests. Can you tell us more about it? What is the the full story about the patented test?
Actually, I kind of just gave most of it. It was walking off stage saying like, okay, I can do something with this, and through a business partner, we started a testing group, and then actually through the marketing of that, that's when we decided to. It was her idea to apply for the patent, mainly to get on marketing patent pending, but then it came through, and it's there. So you can look it up. I think if you go to the U.S. patent website, you can put in my name and you can find my patent. But it's there, and it's a real thing. But it's really just kind of the methodology behind setting up a test to determine if something is or is not a ranking factor in Google, which kind of that's the foundation to all the testing that I was doing. Is like, does Google care about this? And through that testing, that's kind of where I learned that there are different zones on a page that Google looks at, and some of those zones are more important than others. And so if you kind of just focus on the things that are the most important, you can do a lot better in SEO. And again, that's remarkably simple. And I know that people really wish maybe that it was more complex than that. But if you kind of do those simple things, you can be very successful, and then add in the fancy stuff after that. But just make sure you get the simple stuff done first.
Okay, so let's go back to the test thing, because you said that in the past there was a pretty small group of SEO that really run tests. So what was the reason, and what do you think that is? Why that was such a situation about that? What everyone were assuming and no one were running tests.
And running tests sucks. It takes time and energy, and it's boring. And then you mess something up and you realize you just wasted a month of your life. It's not easy to do. You really want to try to eliminate as many variables as you can. And that's often difficult for people to figure out what they actually really want to test or what they can test. So conceptually, it's not easy. But I'll tell you what, though, just do a case study. If you just did a case study, so maybe not even just what might be considered like a scientific test, and I say that in quotes because I don't even know how scientific these things are really, but just do a case study. Like you hear about something, get a site that you don't care about that much, it's ranking for some terms, and try a technique on it, but be very diligent in how you observe what's going on. Make observations, write it down, track things appropriately. You're going to learn a lot. Actually, and that's going to put you probably in the top 500 SEOs in the world just by running one case study, because the vast majority have not. You're going to learn a ton. Just get in and do it. So I know that it's no fun to run the test, but there's still a lot of things that people can do that aren't quite as intense. But just get in the game. Get in the game and do it. And you're going to learn a lot. You're going to become a better SEO. You're going to be able to tell people to sit down and shut up when you hear nonsense, because you actually have something that you can show and talk about, and they're just going to have opinion. So go for it.
But, in every situation, you can just, didn't, make any test and be like, it depends as always, it's from my, point of view. And I'm really, really curious, because I know that it takes time, but when it comes to the trust issues in terms of the relation between the SEOs and the clients, basically the tests and the whole background of that can be your major tool to be authority, but I don't know. What do you think about SEOs that are not really into tests and stuff, and they like just assuming? Is that a wrong way, or this is just some kind of other way to proceed your stuff?
Well, you can definitely get knowledge through trial and error for sure, and a lot of people have that, and a lot of people intuitively do very good work with SEO. And as I've been saying, a lot of SEO is pretty straightforward and simple. And if you knock that out, you're going to do well. You don't have to have super secret, arcane knowledge. It's just like, I don't know, put your keyword in these 4 spots and you're probably going to beat a lot of sites. And then, just experience will get you there for sure. But if you want to fast track that a little bit, if you want to have a reason that you're doing it more so just than I've done it this way and it works,
Yep.
then testing is a great option.
Okay, so in your experience, what common misconceptions do SEOs have about testing, and that you would like to, I don't know, expose or debunk?
There's no big misconception. A lot of people just say you can't test Google's algorithm, and I think maybe they're coming from the perspective of you can't know everything, kind of like a perfect solution fallacy. If it's not perfect, then you can't do anything, and we're not trying to find out all of Google. You can't find out all of Google. We're just trying to pull the veil back just a little bit and get some insight, because it's also important to understand that in SEO, you're not going to be right 100% of the time. There are too many things going on that you cannot be right every time, but you can be more right than your competitors. If your competitors are getting things right at 30 to 40% of the time, and you're getting things right 55 to 65% of the time, you're going to win in the long run. In the aggregate, you're going to win. And it's just a matter of repeating those processes that give you the best chance for success. And testing is a way to figure out some of those things. That that if I continue to do this, it won't work every time. You have to let that go, but it will work more times than not. And it'll work more times than what my competitors are doing. And that's how you can win in SEO, because over time you have pages that have a much higher chance for success. And in the end, you get more successful pages.
Okay, so let's dig deeper in the test things, and let's try to encourage SEO testing. Can you tell us how to start, basically?
Yeah, I mean, if the easiest test that you can look at is is an H1 stronger than an H4? Does that matter? And so what you can do is publish 5 pages all in the same domain, going after the same target keyword, and that can be like a 3-word English phrase or any language phrase that is uncommon that really nobody's ranking for, or you go for just a completely made up word. Once all 5 of those index on the pages 1, 2, 4, and 5, put an H3 at the top, and on page number 3 in the middle, put an H1. If the H1 moves to the top, it is stronger than the H3s. If the H1 moves to the bottom, the H3s are stronger. If it does not move, then they're the same. And it's a very basic test, and you can give it a go, and you can see if an H1 is stronger than H3, H4, doesn't matter. Any other tag, and so you can kind of compete it. Now, from there, and maybe you have a question about this, you want to repeat the tests for validity, but that takes forever, because really you want to get the result like 5 or 6 times to get near scientific or statistical significance that this is a thing. But what you can do is you can test in the inverse. So, in that first test, we put the H4 on 1, 2, 4, and 5 with the H1 in the middle. Do it the other way. H1, H1, H4, H1, H1. And you should get the opposite result from what you've got. So when you test in the inverse, it allows you to fast track proof of what you're doing, because it moved up in the one and moved down in the other. Now we know we've got a factor in play, or we know that this is stronger than that. So testing in the inverse was a real big push forward for me in figuring out how to run tests and how to verify the results so we can feel good about what we're talking about.
Yeah, it seems to be really easy when you are talking about it. So how do you come up with ideas of what to test?
Most of it comes from work that I'm doing. If I'm working on some client site or a friend site or something on my own, I'm like, what is that? Or sometimes I'll see a competitor's doing something weird, and it's like, oh, does that help them? Is that anything they should be doing? Should I be doing that? And so just kind of look at, does Google care about that? Will Google read it? If they're doing something funky. So almost all of it comes from something practical. Sometimes I'll get it from, those publications we talked about, when they'll say, this is not a ranking factor. And it's like, okay. And then you read the article and they didn't do anything with it. They're like, this isn't a ranking factor because I feel it's not a ranking factor. And Google said something somewhere one time in a tweet. Well, that's not great. And so I'll go ahead and try to set up a test to see if I can't see if it is or is not a factor. So that's only when I'm feeling spiteful, though, is when I do that. But I would say the vast majority are practical, and it's a question that I'd like answered.
Okay, so how do you design and plan a test when you already have an idea of what you want to test? Do you have a step-by-step approach, and do you start with hypothesis? How do that work?
I think you do want to have a hypothesis because you want to check your biases at the door. If you're not honest about what you think is going to happen, because sometimes you can do things that are going to influence the results. Yeah. But the tricky part of it all is somebody will see a technique. They watch something on YouTube and it looks really cool, and they want to see if it works. And that's not going to be great for a scientific test, because we want to get it down to one thing. We want identical pages, and then basically we're going to change one thing on those pages. And that's where people run into problems with these things when they're trying to set up the test, is because it's hard for them to get down to the one thing. Now, if you can't, again, it's a technique you want to try. That's a case study. Go and do that, and you'll learn a lot, and it'll be valuable, and share it with the community, because it'll help us learn too. But if you can get whatever you're talking about down to one thing, then you can put it into the test environment that I talked about before, where you've got 5 identical pages, and you're going to change one thing on the middle one. Is that one thing that you're looking at, and then to see if it goes up or down or doesn't move.
Okay, so we know, and you mentioned about the hypothesis and stuff. So tests do not always, end with success. Can you share an example of one that didn't go as planned, and what did you learn from that kind of experience?
Oh, I've had plenty go poorly. I don't know if I have one in particular that went terribly wrong. It's just there are times when the biggest thing is indexing pages. Like, sometimes things are humming along and all your pages just disappear. Google hates them, and they're all gone. And that's frustrating, and kind of getting maybe over those types of issues are the biggest hurdle to get over, is getting pages to index in the first place, and then hoping that they stay up long enough so that you can see a result. So what that's actually helped me, though, is figure out how to index pages. I've tried a lot of different techniques. What's interesting about that, though, so that's such a side thing, right? You wouldn't think about, is this indexer better than that one? Does this work? Does that not work? Is that they all seem to work for a little bit, and they all stop working, but then they'll work again later. So you have to be, if you're having indexing issues, you pretty much have to try every technique, every tool out there. One of them will work, but it won't last forever. You'll have to go back to one of the other ones. So that kind of stuff is actually what's great about testing, is that I never realized how much indexing would be involved, and then that gets me into different indexing tricks.
Yeah, so each test can have positive side effect that can help in other aspects of your work.
100%. I mean, you learn different things about websites. You learn different things about how the code works, how pages render, things that I never would have thought about, that I don't care about at all, except it's like, hey, what is this? We get it down to one thing, and you realize this isn't a weird thing. I don't know how this code works. I don't know how browsers look at this. I don't know if Google's rendering this. I don't know. So then you can kind of get in, you really learn a lot about how the web works just in general by running tests.
Okay, so on the other hand, what test did you find the most surprising, in the positive way, in the terms of results? Something that you did not expect at all.
Let me think. It wasn't my test. It's a guy named Joe Priest, and he runs some really great tests. And he's a super sharp guy, and we've collaborated some things and kind of talked about his test. And he's published a bunch of things in IMG a while back. But the question was, how many links will Google crawl on a page? What's your guess? How many links? Recently somebody was telling me that some guru was throwing out a number about how many links Google, and they were saying that's why you need to limit your internal linking, something we talked about earlier. How many internal links should you have? How many links will Google crawl? Do you have a guess?
I don't have a clue.
Throw out a number.
I don't want to make a guess, because
Price is Right rules. Price is Right rules.
Give me
how
some.
How about in the comments? How about if people want to guess how many links will Google crawl on a page?
But all viewers will be like, let's Google that test up, and
you can't find it in time. You can't find it in time. Yeah. No one's brave.
Uh,
32.
32.
A good one. Okay, so what Joe did is he got 1,000 orphan pages. So an orphan page is a page that isn't linked to anything else on a website. 100, 150, these are good guesses. So he took 1,000 pages that were orphaned, so there are no links on the website and they're not indexed. Then he took another page and he put 1,000 links on that page, one link to each of those 1,000 pages. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So we have 1,000 links. The only links going to those pages are on that page. He then sent that to Google to index. Google crawled all 1,000 links and indexed all 1,000 orphan pages. So that was remarkable. And the thing about it, and that tells me, could be a lot more than that. But it also tells me when somebody's telling you, Google only crawls 20 pages. Okay, well, show me how you know that. Show me what you're doing, because we've got this test over here where Google crawled 1,000 links in a matter of days. I think it was like 2 days, 3 days. Crawled 1,000 links and indexed 1,000 pages from those links. So, yeah, that's good. Once you kind of have a lot of tests going like that, it kind of also gives you kind of a BS meter for when people talk about, because you might not have exact information what they're talking about, but you know something similar, and you can kind of decide if that is reasonable or not.
Okay, that's interesting. Can you maybe afterwards, can you share with all of us some results of the test, maybe the details of it? Do you have it, or it's not really
Of that particular test?
Yeah, of that particular test.
I think that's either somewhere. It's buried somewhere in IMG. I wouldn't know. It's in the back. It's in the back.
Okay. Okay, so let's go with another question. Another one about tests. What was the most challenging test to run from your point of view?
Oh, the ones that are still challenging are user signals, click-through rate, time on site, clicking through, stuff like that. There's certainly something there to those elements, but nailing them down is super hard, and I haven't been able to do it yet. I think because you need there are concurrent factors. Like you need factor A, and then Google will consider the user signal. And it's really hard to set that up in a test environment to get factor A to then for Google to care about, user signals or user metrics. So those have been the hardest to run. It's a nut that I haven't cracked yet, and still trying to figure it out.
Okay. So do you test, only by you or in a team?
I have a extremely small team. It's a team of 3. Me and 2 other people.
Me, myself, and I.
Yeah, 2 other people are involved in the tests, and but it's a pretty small team.
Okay. So how has your approach to SEO testing evolved over the years, especially with changes in algorithms and stuff related to that?
I've become a little more accepting of SERPs that have more results in them than I would like, where you can try things in the wild a little bit more. I would like to have SERPs that really don't have any other pages than my own test pages, because then you can feel a lot better about the results. But I've kind of got a little looser on playing with in SERPs that have more pages. Using more English Ipsum, using so not just Lorem Ipsum, using longer phrases, those kind of things. That's all kind of evolved a little bit, but overall the basic framework and structure of the whole thing has remained about the same.
Okay, so I think we run off the questions. The last thing that maybe I don't want to ask you, but I want to know your opinion about. In about 1 month, I think we see each other in Chiang Mai on the Chiang Mai conference. You will be speaker there, and how can you describe the Chiang Mai conference? Because every Asian conference, you're living in Chiang Mai, so your point of view is it might be completely other than mine. But in my opinion, the Asian conference, like SEO Mystery Summit in Vietnam and Chiang Mai one, are completely different than the European one in terms of, from my point of view, my hypothesis, in terms of environment to networking, and make some other smaller groups of people that want to catch up and talk about various topics. So what do you think about the conference? Are you excited about that, and what is your plan for the whole conference? You have do you have some other plans besides the conference, some meetups or stuff? If you can tell me about it more.
Yeah, so I live in Chiang Mai, so it's an easy one for me to get to. But what's a lot of fun is, there are 800 people at the conference, but I would bet 2,000 SEOs show up. Like at least double the amount, because they don't have a ticket, but they're here in town. And I want to say last year, I can't remember, it was something like 65 extra events that were in the app, something like that. 75.
Yeah,
it was
on the
a
whole,
crazy
yeah.
number. So yeah, on the Hove app, and that's just people like saying like, "Hey, I'm from China. If there are people from China, would you like to get together?" Or, "Hey, I'm from Australia. Would all the Australians like to get together?" Or, "Hey, I do rank and rent, rank and rent people," or "I do drop shipping," or "I do affiliate this," or "I do agency," that kind of stuff. And so just all of these things are happening. We're gonna do one for the board game. So we were talking about earlier that me and my team, we invented SEO the board game. And so we're going to do like a play and have some beers and play the game party. Feel free to buy one. We need to make the sales. And as we're talking, you guys we're so kind to be a sponsor for that. But yeah, all of those things are going on. And then Chiang Mai is a small place. You can walk from one side to the other in like 30 to 40 minutes. As a result, when people are going out to restaurants and bars and coffee shops, they're going to kind of the same places. So as you're going around the conference, you run into a lot of people. And Chiang Mai is such a nice place, and November is really the best weather in Chiang Mai. So it's really nice to be there. And a lot of people stay for a couple weeks. So things will really start popping off pretty soon, and we'll go for a week or two after the conference as well. Week before and a week after for sure. It's a pretty good party if you're into SEO and digital marketing.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait, to be honest. So we've finished our series of questions. Let's move to the Q&A. We are still waiting for your question in the chat. I start about 4 questions that seems to be related to our webinar. Hi, Kyle. Thor Direct. Hi, Kyle. Do you still go hard on reverse content silos? Any nuances to keep in mind?
Yeah, so that's a term that I use when I'm teaching about the virtual siloing for compound SEO. That's what we're talking about. So yeah, I still go hard on it. It's still extremely effective. No notes. Just the thing that I'm really trying to be conscious of is the content that I'm posting in there is supporting content, and it's under with the Avalanche framework. So I'm going to use it to raise the site, and then also in the reverse silo point to that target page. And I'm going to limit my links as much as I can within the body content for those pieces, because they're there for that purpose.
Okay, let's go with another one from Damien that we both know.
Who's this guy? Who's this incredibly attractive person?
Yeah, amazing, very handsome man. So brand mentions in top tier publications are still good for EEAT. Agree or not?
I think these are unlinked mentions is what he means, where it's kind of like that your brand is being mentioned in that publication, but there's not necessarily a backlink. I don't know. I can't agree or disagree. I know a lot of people swear by it. I couldn't really tell you. I don't know. I wish I had a better answer than that. I know some people that swear by it, that absolutely swear by it. I know some people that say that it's nothing to it. I don't know at all. Can't hurt, right? At a minimum, it can't hurt. You're not doing anything that's going to harm anything. Would I make a point of trying to get it instead of the backlink though? Maybe not. Maybe I'd try to get that backlink with the brand linked as the anchor text. But yeah, I'm not 100%. I don't know. I don't have a great answer on that. Sorry about that one.
I'm sure that Damien is pretty satisfied that he, asked that kind of question, that that one question that you
That
are
can stump
not
me.
sure about.
The one that I don't know the answer to. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's go with another one. Syed Zihan, hi Kyle, should I publish my first 20 posts based on rankability or start with review money making posts to establish my main entity with Google, even if it takes longer to rank?
It's not one or the other. It's how much can you publish. If you can only get 7 pieces out, then maybe I would do 1 or 2 money pages and then 5 for rankability, something like that. So
Okay.
you need to balance it because the ones that are more difficult to win will take longer. So and you need to get them up because you need time on them. You also need to build up the strength of the site, get those clicks in. So it's really, I think, more of a balance between the two, equaling them out a little bit. Obviously, more ranking to money pages, but you have to balance that out based on really how much you can publish. So, if you can do 8 pieces, then I might do, I don't know, 3 top or 2 top and 5 or 6 supporting, something like that.
Okay, next one from Syed Zihan as well. I know you are a big advocate of avalanche. Advocate is a good word because you have your lawyer papers. Yeah.
I do have my
Um,
lawyer papers.
yeah. So you're a big advocate of avalanche SEO, but if I publish posts that are in my tier, Google may only recognize me for informational posts, which might make it difficult to rank my money pages.
I've never seen that. I mean, if you're in the same niche, you're talking about the same thing. I've never seen any problems with that.
Okay. Okay, I will start up something else. But I'm not sure if it's relevant. Oh, let's go with it. Maybe. Give me a sec. I would like to know. I built service-based location pages following the same process for all. Some index, rank, then disappear. Others are in top 3 within days. Why do some disappear? I think it is some kind of question that we can answer. It depends, but maybe you have some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, your site might not be strong enough for them to be in the top 100 for it. Is the simplest answer. You don't have the authority, so you have to do more to that page in order to get it back within the top 100 and ranking. Yeah, your site, you're just not strong enough for it. Is the most likely and the simplest answer.
Yeah, you can't buy history and authority. You need to build it up. Okay, that was, I think, the last one. If you guys have some other questions, I encourage you to ask those on the
There was
chat.
one. There's a question that Rhett had about. It's at the very bottom. Doesn't that make the page more of a link farm with that many links?
Yeah,
That signal. So talking about the test where we've got 1,000 links, and Rhett, the point there is, who knows, who cares? That wasn't the point of the test. The point of the test was how many links will Google crawl.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at there. We're not looking at, is this a good tactic? I wouldn't do that. We've talked about limiting internal links and linking for a purpose, but the point that we're trying to find out about the algorithm here is will Google do it?
Yeah,
exactly. And so in this case, yes, Google will crawl the 1,000 links. But it's a good point because you want to think about application, but it's also how people kind of get lost in their test too, because they're not thinking about that one thing that they're testing. Like, what about this? What about that? Those are different tests, or those are different discussions to have. But the question here was, will Google just crawl them? Because people think that maybe only 20 links will be crawled or 5 links will be crawled or something like that. When in this case, we know it's at least 1,000.
Okay, so I think we run out of questions. If that's it, yeah, we're here for more than an hour, so the time is pretty good. Yeah, so I think we can wrap up, and thank you guys for being with us. It was a pleasure. It was a knowledge bomb for me and for you, I think, also. If you will be at Chiang Mai conference, you can catch us. You can catch the Linkhouse booth. You can talk with Kyle, and during this year, I think that will be the last conference that we'll be at. But on the 2025, I think there will be much much, many other conferences that we'll be able to see each other. So don't forget to subscribe the Linkhouse YouTube channel. Don't forget about our I Hate SEO newsletter, ihateseo.com. You can sign up for it. I encourage you to follow us, but mainly I encourage you to follow Kyle Roof on the LinkedIn. And thank you for being with us once again, Kyle. It was a pleasure.
Thanks so much. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. And see you soon, guys. In about, I don't know, few months, there will be many things on our YouTube channel, webinars, interviews. So a lot of knowledge that we'll be delivering for you. So let's stay in touch, and bye. Have a nice evening.
Take care.